What's up, guys? This is Heist. Today we're playing Railroads Online with my buddy kAN, and we're going to be building a new rail alignment down to the smelter. I'm excited to see how this turns out. Let's get into it.
We're back on the crap railroads.
Doing well on the crap, and I'm sitting here looking at both of our fine locomotives, and
oh, do you like my thumbnail? Do you like
this? This is a good thumbnail.
Nice.
This is a good thumbnail shot.
Nice thumbnail, wasn't it?
Yeah, very good. But you know, yeah, they're both number one, and
yeah, someone mentioned that we should name every engine number one on this railroad just to add to the crap confusion. So they'll be like, engine number one, you're cleared down the main line, and then no one knows what that actually means.
Engine number one, go ahead and bring him back. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
What? Come on.
Wrong engine number one, but anyway. So yeah, we're gonna run to the smelter today because pretty much have to go to the smelter in terms of progression here. We're already at the sawmill and the logging camp. Have to get to the smelter first, and then we can run to the iron mine. So we're gonna try and make a line, and we're gonna use a historically accurate work train. I don't know what that means. That's Heist. That's the script Heist gave me. So
there you go. Yes, well done. We'll discuss payment after this. Yes. So I wanted to do make a little work train and bring it along while kAN gets to actually lay the track, and we're gonna act like we're actually supplying the real rail line, and we can talk about how railroads are actually built and were built back in the day, because it's actually a really neat topic, and it's something that gets glossed over in Railroads Online a little bit because you're placing splines point and click, and you don't have to agonizingly sink spikes in, one at a time. So I thought it'd be fun to, just add a little flavor to the episode as we go build track. So
how many cars do we bring? I got two. I got
unhook. Three. As I've already pulled the pin on the third one and tied one handbrake.
Well, you're the train man, so
we've only tied one handbrake, which is not sufficient anywhere else, but in Railroads Online it works. So. I think I want to do the DSP&P way car because I haven't seen it in game yet, and it's kind of cute.
Oh yeah, in case you didn't notice, I've sort of changed the freight depot. I forgot to mention the shunt yard here felt stupid, and we needed a water tower and we needed fuel, so I just added that here in place of the shunt yard. So we can fill up with fuel and stuff as we come through the freight depot. We'll have to build a shunt yard at some point in time on the other side for storing trains. Actually, we'll probably have to do that pretty soon because we're gonna have cordwood cars at some point, and then we'll have, one too many sets of cars. Other notable things, Betsy's water goes up, coincidentally. A lot of people pointed that out in the comments. Don't know why. It might be a bug from the spline update.
That is how it works, sir. So, I got comments on that too. That is how that works. So the water...
How does that work? The water doesn't go up. How does
Well, so it's a little bit of hacky steam simulation on QMA's end, but what he's simulating is that the water level in the boiler is constantly rising until it hits 90% via the injector. So if you have water in the tank, it will continually raise the water level as the engine's working because the injector is constantly putting water in, and that's not actually how you'd run one, and that's not exactly how it works, and the flow rate's wrong. But the water level is just the water level in the boiler. So once you drain the tank on Betsy completely, the water level will stop increasing and it'll start to decrease as you're using the steam. But it's actually just simulating the injector putting water in.
Okay, so I'm sitting at Betsy right now. Regulator's off, brakes on, the fire temp's at 400, there's fuel, and the water level's going down. But as I use the regulator, you're saying the water level will go up?
The tank may have finally run out if it's going down, because it should continuously just go up.
Oh, you're saying the water level is water level in the steam chamber, not in the tank itself.
Yeah, it's in the boiler, not the total water level. It's just like the other engines, the tender.
I see. So we don't have a tank water level indicator anywhere.
No, you've just got to go in and check the hatch, like we do on the real one.
Well, I'm standing inside the tank right now.
Well,
so
that's another way. I mean, you get a little cold.
That's working out quite well.
All right, I'm gonna pull the work train ahead here, and I'm gonna go pick up our way car.
Oh, you bought the? I'm gonna go take a look at this way car. This looks
cute.
Fancy.
It's a cute little thing. I mean, it's a neat prototype, and it's a really early prototype from the Denver South Park and Pacific Railroad. Many of them actually still exist, surprisingly. A lot of those updated way cars, they got updated to be bobber cabooses with a cupola. Many of them exist, and we have one at the museum, and it's getting some work right now, the CNS 1009. So I've labeled it the 1000 to kind of mirror the DSP&P. because they did
nice.
10, they had 1,000, then 1001, 1002, 1003, etc. We have the 1009 at the museum, and I know that the 1006 and the 1008 still exist for sure. I think a couple more might as well.
Dude, these yellow planks are quite the accent piece. Like, that is...
I thought it was a bit of a striking paint job, so I picked that one.
Yeah, it is a very striking paint job. It's very
yellow.
interesting. Yeah. I like it's a beautiful looking. It does look kind of like a caboose without the top, doesn't it? Like, it really.
That's the whole thing. They added the cupola
literally all it
later for
is.
visibility, but in the early days, before you had really big rolling stock and big boxcars and everything, this was plenty for visibility. But when the railroads got a little bit bigger and got more equipment that was a little taller, it made more sense to add the cupola on cabooses. So, dunk.
Hold
You can
on.
check this thing out too.
I think you're good.
I haven't been inside it yet. This is the first time I'm seeing.
Well,
it
there's
again.
2 beds, so
Dude, we
can
got 2
sleep
bunks
next to each other here.
We're
and,
ready. Dude, sleepover. Railroad sleepover.
Exactly. So how would that work? If they were working on the railroad, like, they wouldn't come back every night, would they? Or would they just sleep on the railroad, or did they?
It depends. It really depends. And we've got a wood stove here and everything. This is great.
With a tea kettle.
With a tea kettle on it, as you got to do.
Tea on the wood stove there.
It's a fun little detail. It really depends. You hope that you would make it to another terminal, or you would make it over the road, or that. But back in the early days, there was no hours of service laws. In the book that I've talked about a couple times on the channel about the early days on the Rio Grande, the big engines and little men, they talk about how even in the early 1900s, there was still no rule for how long you could work. And so crews were on duty for more than 16 hours regularly, all the time. Ahead, here we go. And so it really, ended up sometime with some shifts and some train crews and some ways that events unfolded on the railroad made a lot of sense to have a bunk or 2 around. So it really helped aid with crew comfort on those long journeys.
I feel like that would just be really cold in the winter.
That is what the stove is for.
Yeah, just
We've
huddled around the tiny little wood stove.
Right. So we have the stoves actually do burn coal. We in the 1009 we actually hung out in that car pretty frequently at my start of the time at the museum. We had it in service, got the car in service, and pulled it behind the train and everything. And I remember doing a boiler wash on the 346, our Class 70 that's been modernized at the museum, where we take all the plugs out and wash the boiler out up at the water tank, and it was about 5 degrees Fahrenheit out, which is, it was absolutely cold. We got wet. It was awful, but they got the coal stove burning nice and hot in the 1009. We finished up our work for the day, went and hung out in the caboose and had a beer, and that was awesome. You got warmed up so easy. It was just nice and cozy in there. Because, the walls were lined with asbestos, because that was the thing to do in the day.
Yeah, safety, yeah. Well, it was just one of those things where they didn't really understand what they were doing. It was sort of like, hey, this doesn't let heat, escape. Sounds good. Let's line it up.
Put it everywhere. I mean, it was,
Just like
encased
leaded
in
products,
behind,
back in the day,
tin,
everything
so.
was made of lead.
Well, it's fine. One of my favorite moments working on the steam engines back in the early days of my time at the museum was pulling the old packing out of 491 out of the throttle, and packing is the stuff that seals a valve, basically, make sure that the stem doesn't leak. And pulling the old packing out, and it was really weird and really heavy. And I asked my boss what it was, and he goes, "Yeah, that's rope made out of asbestos and lead. You should probably wash your hands afterwards." And I was like, "Wait a minute,
so
what?"
They didn't have any sort of rubber seals or anything like that. I guess it would all melt or whatever. It was all just
asbestos, whatever it was.
goody.
I mean, lead's super soft. Asbestos is really heat absorbing and everything. So it made sense for the time and era of the locomotive, and safety culture is important, folks. Make sure that, if you're going to be handling dangerous things like that, make sure that you've got all the proper briefings and understand it before you get into it. Because, our safety culture wasn't the best when I started, but thankfully it's really good now.
All right, so we're going to have to stop here and build a Y.
That's right.
Because there are going to be some times when we're going to want to come from the freight depot out and vice versa. Is there specific, Jesus, what am I even saying? Are there any specific Y dimensions? Is there a history to the Y? Is there back in 1802 the first Y came out in Kentucky, and it was You know what I mean? Or
I wish I had it for you. I don't think I have any specific dimensions on that. And unfortunately, the biggest thing that we would have that would be different and special would be the size of switch. But in Railroads Online, we have the one switch, and that's the switch we have to work with, so that's the switch we'll use.
Guys, we found Heiss's limit of knowledge. He does not know the history of the Y.
I don't know the history of the Y. Yeah.
Oh no.
I would tell you that the switch in Railroads Online is a very large switch. It is very high speed and bigger than a lot of the stuff used on the narrow gauge. Oh, that track's a little kinky there, Con.
Is that spicy?
It's a fair bit spicy. It looks like Heist track. Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. That's not gonna be good.
No, it's not gonna buff.
That is gonna hurt. That is gonna hurt a small child. When it comes around the corner.
Yeah.
All right, we might have to back the train up a little bit here.
Okay, yeah, we don't want to drop it off the bridge.
I feel like we might have to build the Y starting like actually on the bridge here, which will be interesting.
I don't know.
Can I build bridges without rail
rails?
on them? I can't. I have to build bridges with rail now. That's unfortunate.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, that's
I can build walls without rail though, like the big stone wall.
Oh yeah, you could have a wall or something. Well, let me back this thing up and
like a pillar section where the switch is supported by, I guess. All right, so you got 3 cars there. You're on a service. You obviously would have a caboose that would be for living, whatever, commute, crew, comfort, etc., all that nonsense. So what would you have? What would they be bringing on the 3 rails as they're building track? Like what would they bring on the cars?
So
just wood beams
you gotta
like...
bring everything that you're gonna need with you, really. Most everything. Of course, dirt is usually a plentiful for doing the actual grading, but typically a work train would have a car full of ties. You'd have cars full of rails. I mean, and typically, even on the narrow gauge, they'd be a lot longer than this, but I wanted a cute little train, and because we've got a cute little engine, so, got to do that, and we can't load them anyways, so, ooh, that's a floating switch. That's a little interesting.
No, it'll look good at some point. I'm just trying to see if dimensionally this makes any sense.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. It'll be fine. I think the more interesting thing, that's something that we haven't seen in Railroads Online yet, and is a neat piece of railroad history, and some of the fun stuff we have at the museum, is all of the support and outfit cars that would go with. Because not only do you need to bring your supplies for the track, you need to bring a lot of people to build the track with you. And when you're going out and building a railroad for the first time, there's no way to get there other than the railroad that you came in on. And so you would take all of your crew by train. And so there would be bunk cars with beds, which basically a boxcar with a bunch of racks in it, almost like it's a submarine or a Navy ship, something like that. We have at the museum, we have models of a kitchen car, which is one of the cars that's open up on display all the time. It's got a big coal stove oven in it. It's set up with a galley, and you're ready to cook food, even on the narrow gauge. Special, modified box car. There would be, office cars, all sorts of things for every different role to support the crew as you're building the railroad. And it's a neat piece of history that doesn't end up being represented a lot because, in train simulators, typically there isn't any need for that. On model railroads, some people will include it and some people won't, but, everything's already built, so there's no need for that infrastructure. And when you're talking about moving, everything you need and all the people you need to make it, that's a lot of stuff. And so there were work trains that would be assigned, and sometimes they would be out for days and run back and forth between the end of track and
when they were building these paths, it was all like hand dug, right? Like they would hand dig pretty much every passageway and all that. I mean, dynamite obviously to blow some rocks up and stuff, but like for the most part, it was just hand digging your way through, leveling terrain with shovels and pickaxes and that sort of thing.
Picks and dynamite. That was the majority of it back in the day on the narrow gauge, because when you're hanging off the canyon, blasting the side of the wall for a big shelf for the railroad to run on, yeah, you definitely had some dynamite, but there was plenty of stuff that was just absolutely dug by hand, and a lot of the tunnels on the narrow gauge that were around were absolutely just dug by a bunch of dudes with a bunch of pickaxes, and it's hard, awful work.
So when you guys, so you have a half-mile track at the Colorado Railroad Museum.
Yep.
When it needs track repair, do you use modern equipment, or are you guys still hand digging out ties and like hand hammering the spikes in, driving the piles and all that? Or
we do a bit of a mixture. This is also a little spicy back here.
Why is that
think
looking so spicy? It looked so good until it didn't.
I think you need one more node in the middle, maybe?
I feel like you're right. I think I need literally one more node here.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the museum, a lot of what we do is pretty traditional. That we do have a couple of modern tools that help out. We'll typically pre-drill our spikes because the ties we have are really, really hard. And driving a spike that is not pre-drilled is awful. I've only driven spikes into pre-drilled holes, and that is still absolutely awful. There's videos of me doing it on the channel, and I look like an idiot, and I feel like an idiot. I don't have the proper technique. The guys who can really swing a spike maul are impressive, and that is such a talent. It is a lot harder than you would ever imagine that it would be. But we do have...
That's basically that big sledgehammer-looking thing.
Big
that's like...
sledgehammer, but with a really long, pointy nose to really make the pressure hit in on the top of the spike's head. We do have a couple air tools. We have an air spiker. We have an air tamper. But really, I mean, by and large, we're tamping with shovels on the ballast, and we're driving spikes by hand for the most part. If we have a lot of work to do, like we're doing a big job on the main line or something, we'll definitely break out the air tools just to get it done quick because, we're interrupting our own trains, right? Even at the museum, that's what happens pretty frequently. But it is a lot of hard, heavy manual labor, and the track crew that we have at the museum is fantastic, but oh my god, that's a lot of work.
Oh boy, come check this out, bro.
Okay, I'm seeing we've kind of
got You thought that? Don't bring the train, please. Don't bring the train.
I'm not bringing the train. I'm just walking.
Just look at how spicy. I'll fix this, but look at how spicy this ended up.
Ooh.
That's a narrow gauge. That's
how
do you even lay track like that?
That's yeah. I don't know what to say about that. That's a little
final piece. Yeah, that's a
special.
pee in the cup for the engineer laying the track.
That is a pee in the cup moment.
Okay, so more important question. Obviously, we do some track scouting, right? When we look for ways to lay track. Who did that on the railroad? Did some guy come along, scout the route, and say this is the route you're gonna take, and like follow this? But then like obviously there's stuff that would come up in the field, like there's a bunch of granite here that we can't actually blast through or whatever. Like how do someone's got to make those decisions, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely intense geological surveys were done months and years before there was even dream of the railroad being built. Like the Rio Grande, Denver and Rio Grande, the first real narrow gauge railroad in Colorado, 1871, with our little Montezuma as the number one engine. Years before they were incorporated, they had surveyed, they had figured out everything. We're not going to lay track, but they had figured out the routes that they were going to take, and as they expanded, they determined more along the way. But yeah, absolutely, geological surveyors, people on horses, right, kAN? See?
Yeah, see those horses. That's what I'm saying. Red Dead Redemption. Let's go.
Come on, let's do it. They definitely
it.
did the first things because, I mean, you got to figure out what the grade's going to be, right? Because you know what your locomotives are or what locomotives you can get ordered and all that stuff. So you got to be able to figure out how much stuff you're going to haul because you got to figure out if you're going to be able to turn a profit, and you got to prove that to the investors. And thankfully, it was boom times in the 1800s with the, everything with all the gold rushes going on and silver mining in Colorado being as mad as it was in the day. So it definitely was an easy sell, but even with limited cargo. But they had to know what the routes were going to be very early on. So Railroads Online is kind of odd in that aspect where we're actually just kind of going as we do. Maybe we'll do a scouting pass or a survey pass, but half the time it's like, well, we'll just kind of lay the track as we go and see what happens.
I both love and hate this piece of groundwork right now. Do you see this?
Like it's got some Z fighting. It looks a little silly.
I'm just gonna. It's not considered groundwork? What is it considered? Well, gets deleted with all. All right, we're just gonna have the switch floating for now. I'll figure out what to put under there at a later point in time.
Maybe
and
more
update
bridge,
it. You
like
might as
slightly
well
lower or something. I don't know.
You might as well do a check actually, and drive into the sawmill there. Let me know how spicy this is, and then I'm gonna go extend this line straight.
All right. We will check for a level of picante.
Yeah, check for the spiciness meter. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Oh, this sucks too. Look at when you merge. Like this is This is an unfortunate thing. I also get people telling me all the time use circle mode with like a 0-degree radius and it'll go straight. Like that's what I've been doing. I just probably haven't shown it on camera. I hate this though. Look at the bridge overlap.
Oh, weird. Montezuma's water level's finally going down, and I checked. The tender tank is empty, so we will need to get some water in it at some point.
That looks like a pretty smooth curve though.
It does. It's looking pretty nice.
You don't clip through this wood beam. It doesn't. The wood beam is clip free.
Well, that's good at least.
So visually it looks terrible, but it is clip free.
Yeah, no, this is a good smooth curve, and it even decently kind of comes into that switch. So.
And this is again. I had so many people comment and be like, "I love how OCD you are with your track laying," and I'm like, "Yeah, me too." Not.
You could just like send it, kAN. You know how well that worked for me in my playthroughs, so.
I know, I should just like send it, right? Not care.
Just, no, it'll buff out. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. The bridge has changed colors since I last ran over
The bridge has changed dimensions too. Like everything changed about the bridge.
Look at that.
Oh, no! Oh no, I made a mistake! I made a mistake! Where's your tender?
It is clipped underneath me in front of me.
Okay, well I'll just let you fix that.
Can I pull ahead? No,
yeah,
you have welded the Montezuma to this bridge because the collision model suddenly appeared, and our cars are rolling away. Our train is rolling away.
Well, you know, I felt kind of bad, Heist, that it's been taking so long for me to get anything done, and like I felt like you needed something to do. So
so you derailed me. All right, I see how it works. I see where your priority's at. That's fine.
Some useful stuff, you know, along the.
Giving me an excuse to put "Smells Like Kenosha" in the soundtrack as I overdub later.
Technically speaking, you have to pee in a cup for that instant because you were driving the train. Right?
I'm pretty sure that we will find the engineering department accountable for this incident. So when we go to report it, I'm pretty sure because someone managed to drop a bridge on my head.
Well, it's not my fault. You shouldn't have been there with your head.
I see how it is. I
don't know where this other line comes out, so this is the other thing I'm trying to find here.
Okay, we're all back on the rails here.
Yeah, well, those bridges, you can't control the direction that the railing spawns on, and I guess wrong. It's
fine.
It spawned in the wrong direction. Yeah. So.
They put it on the same side as the other one that you laid off of the switch, just in the same way. So there might be a context clue you can pick up on there. Perhaps.
Dude, we are making this track is so like expensive looking with the perfect fill, you know?
Right. Definitely.
When you used to make track in like the old system, the fill was never perfect. Like no matter how hard you tried, you would never have perfectly centered track with perfectly centered fill, you know? And now that it all is, it's like, man, we've got the price of our railroad just went through the roof.
Oh, ballast is important. So is a good grade. Because, I mean, if you don't have it, Lord knows. I have watched choo-choos put that stuff wherever they feel like. 491 once moved the track like 6 feet on sender because we didn't have enough ballast.
A train can eventually completely shift all the ballast out from under the track. Like it'll have enough momentum over time to just do that.
You can, any sort of kinematics between the locomotive and the rail will do it. And steam locomotives are worse for that sort of thing than diesel locomotives are by a significant amount because of the hammer blow of all that weight of the pistons, of the counterweights of the wheels, everything going up and down, forward and backward. And then as a steam engine works hard too, they definitely do a significant shimmy one way or another that you don't get to see in Railroads Online, but you can see when they really work, which definitely screws with what the track does for sure. So there's a really intimate relationship between how the locomotive works and how mechanically upkept it is and how well it handles the railroad, and it will put the track where it wants it if the ballast is not sufficient, let me tell you that.
Alright, I think this is a good why. I don't know where we end up, but
it's fine.
We end up going straight over this trees canyon a little bit.
Yeah, definitely one thing when you're actually laying tracks is you clear the trees and lay the grade first, and then you put the track down. But you know, it's fine. And then you do a passive ballast on top.
I used to put grade down just to sort of plan my route and make sure that I could actually like do the route, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And then I would go back and demolish all of it and demolish all the trees and then put fresh grade and then fresh track. It was always like a four layer process. Now it's like a 2-layer process.
Which for the sake of a video game is absolutely the right move. I mean, there are a lot of cool things about the railroad, and there's a lot of cool things about the logistics of track laying, but the physical tedium of actually laying track, no, you don't need to simulate that in a game.
Imagine we had to hammer each individual tie-in and stuff like as we're going.
Dude, I mean, no thanks. There's a great historical landmarker of like one of the most ridiculous feats of track laying. When
No, you can't go this way. You gotta go back, go through the sawmill, do one of the loopy loops, you know? Get some.
What
Well,
am
we
I
gotta
doing?
test the other side of the Y too, you know?
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I see what you
do
want.
one of those fancy loops, you know? Plus, I'm gonna replace this with another bridge.
Okay. Well, I'll let you
Yeah.
do that, and then I'll go the other way.
Look at how strong I am. I'm pushing the entire train backwards with
It's impressive.
just with it. Oh no, this is a bad.
Did you fall into the frame? Were you part of the Montezuma?
Yeah, I did.
Can you get my switch, or are you just gonna start? Okay, I'll get my own switch. Fine.
Oh, I'll get your switch. Don't worry about it.
I got out.
Excuse me,
It's
sir. No,
okay.
no,
It's fine.
sir,
It's
sir,
fine.
sir. Excuse me, sir. Let me just.
No.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay. Thanks. Okay.
Oh.
Hey, you wanna line that
notice?
to the
You notice?
diverging
You
route there, friendo? Thanks.
Man, we would be peeing in a lot of cups if we were running a real railroad.
Yeah, that's half the fun of playing train video games, is knowing that you can just be cavalier and just have fun and not worry about the safety piece of it, which is so present and so important in the real thing. That's like one of my favorite things about these games.
You guys have your own railroad, the Colorado Railroad Museum, right? You got your own little track. So there is no abiding safety body over that section of track. You guys own the track. You can do what you want on the track. If I built a train track in my backyard, could I just put trains on it and no one would care?
Well, so it depends, asterisk, on many a thing, and it because of course it does, because there's always regulations. That's the secret. There's always regulations. So it depends. How big is the gauge? What gauge track are you doing? Are you putting a 3-foot gauge line in your yard? Well, you might be subject to some regulations. Are you going to run steam engines of any size? Well, you're probably going to be subject to some regulations once again. And I thought we had a tie into it. No, we do right there. Okay, never mind. I'm not being stupid, I promise. The FRA, which is the Federal Railroad Administration in the United States, who oversee most railroads out there, they oversee anything that is bigger than 2-foot gauge and larger, and only if the railroad crosses a public highway or waterway, so bridge or grade crossing.
Railroad?
2-foot gauge is a thing. Yep. And
like for freight hauling 2-foot gauge, or just for like those toy trains that you ride around at a fair?
No, freight hauling 2-foot gauge. That in Maine, in the United States, there was 2-foot gauge common carrier freight and passenger railroads, and there were a couple others as well elsewhere. So even smaller than this 3-foot gauge in the game, there was 2-foot gauge that did the same thing for the same purpose. It was cheaper, all that sort of thing. And the FRA regulates them, right? But if it's 2-foot gauge or bigger, you have a public grade crossing, be it a waterway or a roadway, the FRA regulates you. So if you're smaller than 2 foot, you're not regulated by the FRA. But if you're running steam, if you have a steam engine, it's usually falling under the state boiler code if it's not under the FRA jurisdiction.
Boiler code.
The state boiler code. Like, for us at the museum, we are actually not under the Federal Railroad Administration's jurisdiction because we do not have a public grade crossing. It's all entirely on our land. So despite us being 3-foot gauge primarily, and we have some standard gauge too, we're not regulated by them because we don't meet their criteria. We're an insular operation. We don't cross any public anything. And so we just follow under the state of Colorado's boiler code. And so the state Colorado boiler inspector comes out and he inspects our locomotives and gives us certification for 3 years at a time. And then he comes out 3 years later and, checks it out. As an industrial boiler, he witnesses a hydro test to make sure that the boiler holds the pressure it's supposed to, and he does an internal inspection with us to make sure that everything's all good inside the boiler, which is pretty much exactly what the federal guy does too, but they have a couple different requirements that are a little bit more specific for things regulated by the FRA.
And they check that for any engine that you're running, basically.
Yes, so even if you had a little live steam engine, it would be underneath. It's still a pressure vessel. It's still pretty much a pipe bomb on wheels.
But if I had a steam engine that runs on like a 6-inch or a 1-foot gauge model railroad in my backyard, I'm just good to go.
Possibly, but you might still be technically required to be inspected by the state if you're in the United States. I don't know how it is in Canada, so you might.
I have no idea how it is. I've never looked into it.
So there's definitely.
I'm gonna tell my wife now that I'm gonna put a steam train in the backyard. Just saying.
You can, and people do. There is actually quite common, 7.5-inch gauge or 15-inch gauge locomotives out there that are really, really cool. I've got some friends that have them, and they're. I really want to do a series on my channel where I build one from scratch and machine all the parts, but I'm gonna need a lot of time and resources and materials and money and things to do that. So that's a pipe dream down the road someday, but definitely something I want to do.
It would be. I remember when I was younger, we went to those fairs, and you always like ride those trains. You kind of like straddle it like a horse,
Yeah,
and it's got,
exactly.
like, a little, like 6-inch gauge rail or whatever. But the steam locomotive is like a fully functional steam engine. Like it's actually burning a fuel. I don't know what kind of fuel those things would burn. I can't imagine it would be a coal fire.
Some of them are. Some of them are coal.
Like
some of them are propane.
Tiny little like coal
some
fires,
of them are
like the size of
butane.
your barbecue.
Yeah, exactly. There are plenty of little engines like that. And the funny thing is, live steam engines like that get even smaller, and they get surprisingly small. The smallest one I've heard of is a 00 gauge, which is a British model railroad size, where it's basically, I think, 1 to 96 or 1 to 87. Someone's going to murder me in my comment section for not knowing 00. I only know HO, which is the American counterpart on the same gauge of track. But anyways, I digress. In, about 1 to 87 size.
I had an HO train set growing up.
Did you? Okay, so HO scale.
My dad built it for us, and then me and my brother played it, and we had these 2 like looping tracks, and they were on separate electrical currents, so we could each control one, and it was amazing.
That's awesome. Well, dude, I love model trains. I've got a couple myself, but super fun. But in that scale, Hornby has made a working live steam engine that runs on steam in that size.
I don't even know how you could that's. How much water could you store? Like you'd be storing like a couple, like 100 milliliters max, maybe.
Right, not much.
Not even.
You have to stop it all the time.
And then you boil that in like what, 2 seconds? Like it would boil so fast.
Yep, it's kind of crazy. The first size where it's really common is in G gauge, which sometimes is known as, depending on what scale it is, could be G or it could be F. A lot of the Colorado narrow gauge engines are in FN3 is what it's called, but they're 1 to 20.3 as the scale. So about, a 20th of the size of the real one. And they run on...
This bridge looks, man. This is, sorry, not to interrupt.
Not to interrupt, but this bridge looks... This is rad. This looks really cool.
This is expensive. This is expensive track laying.
This is definitely expensive rail alignment right now.
Yeah, the crap railroad they made a lot of money in the gold and silver ages, okay, of narrow gauge, right?
Right. The crap railroad, it's like the
found a
RGS.
way to turn a turd into gold, and as a result,
we had a lot of them, so
yeah, exactly. All right, I'm gonna start dropping down, I guess, because might as well at this point.
Yeah, I think you're at the kind of the restriction there, or pretty close to it. So starting to bring down the height would be pretty good.
But it'll work. This is good. Now you're actually like right behind me here. We're gonna have to figure out how to get down to the smelter.
Yeah, I'm gonna snake the work train up so you've got more materials at the ready, naturally.
Can you imagine if this game had material costs or like track laying costs?
Oh my god, you would have to be much more methodical in plotting your alignment. We would have not have used a bridge right here.
No, exactly, and you'd have to like, you'd really have to like do a lot of logging runs initially to just get the money to actually expand to a new industry. Like it would be a really expensive process.
Absolutely, for sure. And I mean, it was expensive back in the day. The cheapest thing was the labor at the time. So that's how different the times were back in the day. Though, that said, there were some awful things done to railroad workers on the section crew, which is what you would call folks working on the railroad back in the day, working actually on the track itself. They routinely used to stage accidents right before payday. Routinely.
What, to get a bigger payout?
So they wouldn't have to pay. So, oops, we accidentally set the dynamite off too early and we blew up half the workers. Good God. Yeah, that was stuff that the railroad used to do back in the day. It was pretty cutthroat.
I take it people didn't get paid weekly then.
No. You wouldn't be done with the job in a week. Well, one of the stories I was starting to tell earlier was about big track-laying feat when they were building the Transcontinental Railroad across the United States. It was completed in May of 1869, linking east and west for the first time. You know, they had one railroad leave California in the west and one in the east that ended up meeting up in Utah at Promontory Point. But along the way, they had a milestone and a sign that I believe still exists to this day, where they laid 10 miles of track in one day. That was the record, and I don't know if it's been beaten anywhere else.
By hand.
By hand, 10 miles of track with the train behind it. You know, it was something like 4 or 5 actual section trains running back and forth, you know, passing each other where they could on passing tracks that they put down, but bringing all of the supplies to where the railroad was being built.
How long were, like, when they're doing these section trains, how long were rail sections? Because nowadays I know you can see those big long trains that have like a rail section that actually like is bent between multiple cars and will go around corners and stuff like that, but they obviously didn't do that back in the day, right?
Nope.
Or did they?
Rail was originally 21-foot sections and later about 30-foot sections. So it was what you could fit on a flat car at the time. And you would have joint plates, you know, with fish plates and bolt holes and everything at every single one of those. And you'd run the joints, and it was jointed rail all the way down, which is absolutely, completely antithetical to what we have these days, which is called continuously welded rail, where the rail segments themselves are like 420 or 421 feet long. So 400-foot chunk of steel that weighs 136 pounds per yard, because, yes, cheeseburgers per hamburger or whatever is our favorite unit of measurement.
Listen, okay, I live in Canada where the units of measurement make sense.
Well, you know, I'll convert
why
that to
Americans
kilograms
are
per meter for you.
They're all like, yay, imperial measurements, and I'm like, okay, but why? And I'm like, I don't understand why you guys want imperial so much when, like, you know, all the metric stuff is just divided by 10. It's just adding zeros, you know? Like,
I'm right there with you. I will say, I said something about this in one of my recent videos where we were talking about cab curtains and being cold in the locomotive. And I made a lot of my fellow Americans very, very mad by saying that I thought metric made more sense. Metric definitely makes more sense.
Oh.
That doesn't mean imperial is worthless and bad. It just means that, dividing by 10 would be easier than multiplying by 12. You know, I could do that math in my head. It's very easy.
Imperial makes every engineer in school have to learn 2 units of measurement. And
yes.
It is very sad.
Yeah, it would be nice.
And then you're always converting. You're always like, let's be real. We should all just be running on Kelvin. I mean, come on.
Right. Let's degrees Kelvin. Let's do it.
Degrees Kelvin. Let's just do it. 200 sounds really hot.
It's a balmy 273 out. Wait a minute.
It's just a balmy 273 today.
Wait a minute. That's freezing.
We got Jim with the traffic report. Yeah, I've seen 6 cars crash into a wall. They clearly don't have winter tires on. Everyone's just like not understanding what's happening here.
It's 273 degrees outside. Yeah.
So I'm trying to make this smelter line along this left mountain because I've never done that before.
Okay.
It's gonna have big sweeping bridges because money.
Send it.
Because we got it, you know. And it's a 2-degree. Oh, did I kill you?
You dropped me. I was trying to chop the trees for you. Oh, God, no! kAN! Damn it, kAN!
Did I drop the train?
Yes, you did.
Did you forget to put the brakes on, or was it
just
on
the spline was so long that you deleted the spline.
Yeah, that was like a 500 meter. That was like a 500 meter spline. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, the train is now in the dirt. So.
Oh, good. Well, it's a car now. It's
fine.
And just like that, the first car was invented.
There you go. It's a steam-powered car. Does it move? I don't know. I don't think it'll work if it's.
I don't think it'll work without.
Okay,
well, I will.
Yeah.
Do you want to re-rail? I have a spline that's ready to be connected, but I have a feeling
You don't want to send the
train.
train to space? Yeah, let me put the entire train back on the track here.
Will it even let me connect this spline? Was it? Oh, I don't.
Oh
wanna...
God, the re-rail tool does not
it.
put the handbrake on, and we are on a grade. This is gonna be a challenge, folks.
Well, you just need to handbrake the first one and re-rail the rest behind it. You'll be fine.
Well, I'm gonna grab the caboose first, which was.
Listen, what did I tell you about the splines being too long? Okay, the deleting is sketchy.
The deleting is dangerous. I would really genuinely appreciate a highlight tool.
Yeah. So when you go to, but then how would that work in multiplayer? When I highlight it, does it like? Because I couldn't see the train. I was 500 meters down the track.
Yeah, that's maybe it should not allow deletion if there's a piece of rolling stock on the track. That'd be an easy
that would
flag.
be a good idea, actually. You could have people move stuff first. This is going to be a big sweeping bridge heist. We're going to have lots of sweeping bridges on this server. Nice gradual
I like
2%. I'm thinking that the crap railroads, right? Here's my lore for all those people, okay? Founded in 18 whatever. I don't know. Something.
18 whatever, yes.
18 whatever. The crap railroads made money through illegal silver smuggling, okay?
All right, sold.
And as a result, and in the Prohibition days, they were obviously smuggling alcohol, right? And as a result, they laid some magnificent groundwork at 2% grades and sweeping curves so that when speed limits finally were abolished in 1906, the crap railroads could really accelerate and take it to the next level.
Exactly.
Long story short, I'm trying to build it for when there's no speed limits on trains.
We want to go fast, people.
Yeah, we want to go fast.
I gotta say, I do think it's funny. I can't remember if it's 1905 or 1906, but the year you picked is the year that knuckle couplers and air brakes were mandated.
Really?
Which, yeah, speed limits removed because now we have brakes. Those are important.
I still can't believe, okay, so there were people legitimately climbing over cars to tie brakes on a moving train at like 20, 30 mile an hour.
Yeah, and even faster.
Down just mountain track. Like,
Yep, just all sorts of sketchy, and that was early on. But mountain track, I mean, they figured out pretty early that they wanted air brakes, so they added straight air brakes, which were kind of not necessarily worthless when you're talking about comparison to men with sticks running on top of the train. But compared to automatic air brakes, which everything that I've ever run has, because not ancient.
Now your trains, did they come with automatic air brakes, or was that a modernization after the fact?
All of our trains came with some flavor of air brake. 346 originally would have just had straight air. She didn't have automatic, but everything got retrofit pretty early. And then 491 and 20, I believe, were built both with automatic air brakes.
See, this looks pretty. Look at this nice. You come into the valley, you got this beautiful bridge here that's just extremely expensive.
I'm liking this. Now, $1 million question: can I run the train on it, or are you going to delete me onto the floor of the canyon?
The bridge will stay, sir. You are clear.
Well,
engine number 1 is clear. Down track Beta 9er. I don't know what track designations would have been.
Oh, I don't have a tender with me. That's fine. That's fine. I just forgot to put the drawbar in. It's fine. I hooked everything else up.
Dude, this looks nice. You come into the valley, it's a nice sweeping turn. We're not going to do anything weird, fancy. This is going to be the only line because we're going to do all the maneuvering from the smelter to like the iron mine and stuff,
Didn't get my caboose. Didn't get my caboose.
Oh,
it's
my
fine.
goodness.
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I double linked. No, stop. Oh, you're there. Yeah, you want to...
Interesting. You left it full reg, full speed.
Well, you thought I was going to be able to, I don't know, do something.
full reg, full speed down a hill. And he's like, oh, I got to go pin the caboose.
I got to go get the caboose. Hey, man, we like to send it around these parts, okay?
Dude, that train would have been off the track in no time at all.
Well, that would have been fine. Good, the caboose is now rolling the way it should be.
All right, so next question of the day, railroad ties.
Yes.
Modern day railroad ties, I've seen a lot of, right?
Yes.
And they seem to be like, sometimes they're made of concrete if they're in, it looks like in cities or stuff like that. Otherwise, they seem to be mostly made of wood. But is there like a specific wood that is used, like a hard oak or something? Or is it always like a soft wood? Does it matter? Could you literally just take a log from the side of the thing, cut it square and bury it, call it a day? Like, was there...
It depends. And everything you just said is yes, actually. So it really depends. Early on, the ties were all hand-hewn ties. So some dude with an axe chopped down a tree and cut it vaguely square. And so you'd see, a lot of the early ties, really early ties on the railroad, they only planed where the rails were going to go. And the rest of them were still, raw log, basically. So they would make sure it was flat where the track was going to go and where the ballast was going to go, and then kind of went from there. And then they kind of squared things off a little bit better moving forward, and eventually you got milled ties that were actually of a square profile and a certain size. Usually for standard gauge, the ties are usually about 8 foot wide. For narrow gauge, they're about 6 foot wide, and usually something on the order of 8 by 8 or 10 by 10, depending on inches in profile, depending on exactly what flavor they are. But definitely, they used what they had originally, and logging railroads would just use whatever they logged. And moving forward into the future, then they started to be more picky about what kind of ties they had. But usually it was whatever was cheap. Softwood was fine, though sometimes it was critical to make sure that you got the right tie. One notable railroad in Colorado, the Colorado Midland Railroad, which was the first standard gauge railroad to go through the Rocky Mountains, which is an insane railroad that has a million great stories. That they went bust shortly after World War I, which was kind of how insane trying to do standard gauge in the Rockies really was to show it. But they built an alignment where they needed and specified oak ties, hard oak ties, so that they could guarantee that they could run fast speeds around their crazy, curvy, super elevated nonsense alignment that they had built. So, yeah, it depends on, exactly what you have. And these days, a lot of railroads are moving to exclusively concrete ties, unless you're underneath a crossing, in which case they tend to still use the wood so that you're not pouring concrete into concrete and all that sort of stuff.
And the concrete ties, just for durability's sake, like once you put a concrete tie there, it's generally not going to wear out over time.
They do need to be changed out after, a certain amount of time, but there's less wear, like you said. They're better for the environment because they're not treated with creosote, which is pretty nasty. It turns into a pretty nasty acid when mixed with water.
That's good.
So,
that's good, considering all the rain that happens just in general.
And just everywhere. Yeah, so
just
definitely
everywhere.
It's definitely good to get to the concrete ties, but wood ties are still cheaper and easier to deal with in some aspects, and re-gauging with wood ties is easy, and they're less prone to cracking than a concrete tie is. But, there's definitely merits to both. But these days, a lot of railroads are only doing new install with concrete instead.
This is going to be like all bridge, by the way.
That's fine. We can just,
and I'm not even mad about it. It's just like lots of money, but it's gonna look so pretty because like when you're up here on the rail, you can look over the whole valley and see all the autumn trees. You can see the waterfall in the distance. Okay, so steel bridges versus wood bridges, right? I'm making a lot of steel bridges here. I generally use steel bridges for longer bridges. Was that just a cost dealio? Like
cost and what they had? Because I mean, you think about when kAN! God!
That's your fault. Okay?
The brakes on the Montezuma are bad.
That is clearly your fault. I'm just gonna walk over here. I'm just gonna put this cup down right here,
just
right next to. I'm just gonna walk away and let you
give me a cup. That's fine.
How's life on the? Can you back up?
I have the reg wide open in reverse right now.
Yo, hold on a minute. Hear me out, okay?
Oh boy. Am I gonna pick
back
up the
to
Montezuma?
Respawn, warp to the respawn. Grab the porter.
Oh,
okay,
and go tug it. Okay. I see where your head's at. Yep. Let's do it.
And I feel like you feel like this is gonna come out.
Okay. Betsy may save the day. She may not, but she may as well.
Let me know when you're back. I'm going to keep going with the bridges.
Definitely. I'm excited. Okay, well, I've made it here in Betsy. I'm going to try and gently knuckle into the rear of the train here and
all right, I'm coming.
Try to not shove it any further down the cliff.
I'll try and replace this track as soon as it's clear. I don't know what the success of this is going to be.
I don't know. I mean, Betsy's Betsy, so I really don't know. We'll see, though.
Oh,
all right.
Whoops, I deleted way too much track there. Oh, no. Okay, I'll fix that
It's fine. You can fix it. All right.
Yeah.
And full reverse. Come on, Betsy! Well, that was...
Is it working?
No. Gonna leave it in full
Wait,
reverse.
Hold on. What if you do full reverse? Okay.
Gonna make sure the brakes are
Just
off.
full reverse. You make sure all the brakes are off. That's really good. Okay.
Montezuma's also still full reverse.
Yeah, is it good?
It is.
You both got boiler pressure and fuel and all that.
Yep. Well, the fuel's actually out, but the water's cold. Or not cold, so.
You ready?
Oh God, what are you gonna do, Con? Yes.
I thought it was gonna work.
That was less catastrophic than I was anticipating.
I actually thought that might work. It did, but
thankfully Betsy is struggling up this 2% grade with this massive train that's behind it, so it's not running away too terribly fast. Oh, Betsy, we love you.
Betsy, I mean, that's a pretty empty train. Did they change? Do you know if any of the weights have changed of any of the vehicles? Or is
the cars are accurate weights now, and I don't know if they're that different than they used to be, but the log bunks, these cars that we're pulling are the heaviest of the flat cars, I want to say.
Oh, perfect.
So, just making it extra challenging.
I'm assuming the caboose is pretty light, though.
Let me see. I think the weights, they should be accurate in the menu. 8360 on the bunk, 8800 on the stake car, and 9220 on the Corwood car. Okay, so
you know what's crazy about these splines?
What?
I'm about to place like a 500-meter spline.
Okay.
And ideally, it'll just draw the curve for me between
the hope.
Point A and point
Hopefully
B. If I can get the link, there we go.
Ooh, big lag when that happened.
Yeah, it is, but like it makes like. This should be perfect. So I made a curve originally of a bunch of smaller splines, and then I went and like deleted all the smaller ones and made a final curve. Look at how smooth this is.
Ooh, it's looking pretty nice.
It's like a gradually increasing radius. Like it just is beautiful. You come into the valley. We're just spewing black smoke all over the forest.
Big
probably lighting some trees on fire because we don't have a fire catcher.
It's fine. We are burning wood in a engine that only historically burned coal, but we have a straight stack with no cinder bonnet. Yeah, it's
we're good.
It's fine.
No, we would burn down this, and we're elevated too, so the wind will carry it over top of this entire beautiful forest.
Yeah, the forest would burn down.
Yeah. Smokey the Bear says only you can stop forest fires.
Yeah, Smokey the Bear says put a cinder bonnet on your choo-choo, please.
Yeah. That's awesome. So a cinder bonnet, basically, my understanding is like you have an inverted flap, right? So that the smoke goes up and then has to go down and then up again to get out. Is that?
So it really depends. There's a lot of different stack designs. The most simple cinder bonnets, or why can't I think of the other word for them? The most simple of cinder bonnets
ash catchers.
Ash catcher? No, it's stack screen. No, cinder catcher, cinder bonnet. There's another word for it. I know it. I promise you.
Dude, I'm telling you, crap railroad. Look at this bridge budget. We've got a hefty bridge budget.
It's great. The most simple ones are basically like just a mesh screen that goes over the top of the stack, and that prevents the big ones from really getting violently sent out, and they break into smaller pieces, and the smaller ones don't burn as long. And that's the most simple variety, but they can get quite complicated into all sorts of different redirections and baffling and all sorts of stuff, depending on just the amount of cinder and hot glowy thingy mitigation you need.
Interesting. Do you see? This is what I'm thinking. I want to do
Spark arrestor. That's the word.
Spark
I was
arrestor.
looking
Yeah,
for.
no, that makes sense. That would make sense. Okay, I want to do this, and I don't know. Don't drive out yet onto this piece, but what do you think of this? And then we loop back around and go underneath it.
Oh lordy. Okay. We're at the mouth of that canyon.
Yeah,
that goes to
and
the
this
left.
is a 2% down bridge.
Okay. So if we're gonna go underneath it, we would want this to turn pretty early. Like turn to the left, yeah?
Yeah, it's gonna go straight and then turn to the left.
Okay, yeah, it's gotta be shorter
shorter than this.
So
this is just so we could walk and kind of scope it out.
That could be fun, yeah.
And then go down into that
enough...
canyon and then do like a U-turn in that canyon and then come back underneath this and then into the smelter.
Yeah, the U-turn, as long as it's the right height, should be wide enough. So yeah, I think that would be neat.
I have no idea how to like this. Seems like you would never do this in narrow gauge railroad.
You actually might. The prototype that I love to talk about in this canyon, because the canyon's so reminiscent of it, is the Georgetown Loop, which is actually on the old DSP&P later the Colorado and Southern. I'm not the best expert historian on that stuff. I've actually met a friend that plays railroads online that knows quite a lot about that railroad. Maybe perhaps we can have him come chat about it someday. But the Georgetown Loop, they realized that the distance straight, if you were to just lay the railroad, was something like 2 miles, but they needed to gain so much elevation that the overall grade was going to be like 5 or 6%, and they weren't going to be able to do it with the little engines they had. And so they looped over themselves, just like we're about to do, to keep the grade to about 3% all the way up, and it makes the railroad, 5 miles long in a 2.5 or 3 mile long canyon. Really pretty train ride, and they actually rebuilt the alignment, and you can go ride that. They run, tour stops, pretty much year round. I think they have Christmas trains and everything, and it's a wonderful place and pretty near Denver. So if you're ever in my neck of the woods, definitely.
Why is it that Denver has all these historic train places?
I guess they're
all
like
over,
our trains in Colorado, okay?
It's just the way it is. Like was Colorado like the birthplace of narrow gauge or something, or is it just?
Colorado was definitely the big place for narrow gauge. I wouldn't say it's the birthplace, and I wouldn't say that it was the only place, but I would have to say it was the most prolific in Colorado out of any state in the United States. There were plenty of other narrow gauge ops all around, but definitely, yeah, Colorado's the place, and we still retained a lot of it. And of all of the states out there, people ask, what's the best state for steam trains or tourist railroading? And the two that usually get brought up as, kind of upper tier of how much steam and how many historic trains there are Colorado and Pennsylvania. So we're definitely up there, and we've got a lot of neat railroads to go experience. So you should come down and visit sometime, kAN.
Yeah, I'll get on that. I actually haven't left the country in like many, many, many years. Mainly, and COVID didn't really help that exactly, because it was like, oh, let's just not travel. So
definitely made it hard.
Now that things are calming down a little bit, it might be. You can pull ahead. I don't think I'm going to delete this.
Okay, I will pull ahead onto the bridge. That bridge is actually looking pretty cool. I like the way that turned out.
Yeah, this is a 70-meter radius here.
Okay, that's not bad.
So that's not too bad, but it just makes it to the edge of the mountain, which is interesting. And then we've got a loop here. This is going to be so ridiculous to do, but I kind of like it already.
I like where this is going. This
railroad is going to be very gradual and made with big budgets.
I want to get the Mosca so bad so that we can go fast. We gotta make some serious money.
I figure it's gonna be awesome once speed limits are completely removed and we can bomb the Class 70 at a good 40 mile an hour.
To Class 70, probably only gonna get 30, but yeah.
Okay, well, it's still better than
Still better than 17. Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be good.
Class 70. I was actually talking about this with some people today. The Class 70s actually got derated compared to locomotives of the same size and same tractive effort on some of the railroads back in the day because of how short the main rod is on the Class 70. So if you look,
are you in the cab? Will it let me jump up into there?
I got out of the
I got
thing,
out. Perfect.
So you can
yeah,
hop in.
sick.
But if you look at the Class 70 in the buy menu to see what it looks like, the Class 70 has the main rod, which is the rod that connects the piston to all of the connecting rods or side rods. The main rod connects on the second axle, which means it's really short, which means that for the amount of forward and backward it does a lot of up and down.
It also has itty-bitty drive wheels compared to...
They're 36-inch. They're pretty small.
Compared to the Cook Mogul's got bigger drive wheels, or the same size, maybe.
I think they might be the same size on the Cook. They're very similar, but the rest of the engine makes the proportions look different.
Oh
Mosca's gonna be a speedy boy. Yeah.
It's got big drive wheels.
But the thing with the Class 70, having that main rod be that short, it tips side to side so hard when it's working. There's videos of me running 346 out there from eons ago on other people's channels. I don't, unfortunately, have many of me running 346 on my channel because she's been out of service for a little bit here. But she works so hard that she goes left and right, and she's really bouncing left and right as she's pulling hard, so much so that she starts to ring her own bell because she's toppling left and right so hard. I mean, it's really crazy how far it really moves because of that main rod.
As you're driving, your train just starts ringing the bell, and that's when you're like,
She's-
"Oh
yep.
man, we've hit critical velocity."
We're working hard. We're pulling tonnage because the bell's ringing automatically
Yeah.
because the engine's waddling back and forth so hard.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's funny that the bigger engines like 491 and engines of 346's size that have the rod connect on the third driver instead of the second, they're a lot smoother because the rod moves up and down a lot less comparatively, so all that mass isn't flinging up and down anymore. It's more so going, back and forth. And then the quartering of the rods, which means that the rods are clocked 90 degrees from each other. So when one set of connecting rods is up, the other side of the locomotives are forwards or backwards, etc. That way the power strokes are offset. With that motion, with a longer main rod, the locomotive starts to kind of do a shimmy left and right where it kind of sticks its butt, the cab, left and right down the track as it's working hard. And so it's kind of pivoting about the vertical axis a little bit. Whereas 346 pivots around the longitudinal axis down the boiler because the rods are going up and down so much. So she starts rocking left and right and bouncing you around the seat a whole bunch. And so they derated those locomotives to pull less because they were worried about the vibrations and how much they were going to damage the track. It's kind of incredible.
That's vibrations never damaged anything in engineering. That's
Never,
the first thing
never.
we learned. Excessive vibration is almost needed. That's how you get more horsepower to your car. If your engine's not chattering, then you need to take it to a
Hey man,
mechanic.
Harley Davidson would like to agree with you.
Yeah.
We make our engines shake because it looks cool.
Yeah, it's definitely.
All right.
So we'll be right back, folks, after these short messages from 1900s.
Boom. Look, bridge. Come back.
All right.
So I'm having a client-side
I'm
glitch,
back.
I think. Okay, yeah. Montezuma's tender was just running away, just on my end.
Oh, on your end?
It
Yeah.
clipped through the engine and was just going bye-bye. But it's fine now.
Interesting.
It's fine. It's fine.
All right, Heist. It took a while,
It did. It really did.
but we did. It's all 2%, which was more of a task than I thought it would be, but I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what it looks like from the locomotive. And then,
Yeah.
of course, show off my handiwork at the
Oh yeah,
smelter
Heist laid the
itself.
loop around the smelter. That's not a permanent thing. We got to the point where we just need to finish this so we can actually, make some trips to the smelter. So Heist did a loop around the smelter. I haven't inspected the track condition yet.
It's not very good. It's
Prior to the smelter, we're all 50-degree radiuses minimum, which is, you were saying 35 degrees. So
yeah,
that's
50 meter, 35 degree.
Or 50
yeah.
meters, sorry, yeah. 50,
Which is,
50 meter.
for these little engines is like absolutely plenty for an aero gauge, So when we even get the really big stuff, it'll still work pretty well. Because the
This
really
is
big stuff's
actually
not even
the
in the game
coolest
yet.
route to the smelter, though, I think we ever could have.
It's pretty rad. It's definitely bridge heavy, like you were talking about. But as I was showing you pictures, I mean, it's like the old Rio Grande Southern. They didn't use steel bridges. They used massive wood trestles that were bigger than the ones we had in the game. But they used a lot of bridges, so it's not absolutely unprototypical to do what we did. And I'm excited to get the train run over it here. So it's exciting.
Yeah, it's a lot of bridges.
So we had to kind of abandon the go underneath our own track plan here because the canyon's just too shallow.
This feels like we're gonna fall off. Honestly, it just feels it's so tight.
It's pretty sharp through here, even as it sits. Definitely.
Yeah, and it's downhill. You're just picking up speed and
going quick. We'll see if we can pee in a cup today.
no, and then it snakes back here. This is pretty cool though. It just wraps around the. We need to get trains long enough to see it on the other end, and
that would be cool.
Massive.
That would be so cool. Probably only you would see them. I don't know if I would see it on the other end as a client, but as the host, yeah, that'd be awesome.
Well, you could sit in the middle, and then you'll see them all, right?
That's the trick.
This is interesting though. This is going to be like our main line for all the ironworks, coalworks, smelter. Everything comes back to the freight depot via this line. That's why I wanted to do it at 2%,
Nice and gradual turns, 2%. Keep the resistance as low as possible so that, if and when speed limits get removed, we can run as quick as we can. It's going to be exciting.
Oh yeah, we're still towing Betsy. I was like, what's that
Yeah,
on the back?
yeah. What's behind us? Oh yeah, Betsy's still knuckled in, so it's fine.
Yeah, it's crazy how much track you actually have to lay though to go down only like maybe 50 feet, but at 2%, it's a lot of
Right?
track.
For every 100 feet you go down 2. So 50
Yeah.
feet. It's a long time. on the railroad.
2,500 feet just to get like you
Yep.
know, yeah, it's crazy.
That's the whole thing. Slight changes. No train makes a sharp turn or a fast change uphill. They all need the slow changes.
We don't have a turnaround loop though, so you're gonna have to push out.
Yeah, we'll have to shove out. That'll be
Yeah, we'll have to
that'll
go
be a
back
smidge weird. Well, it'll be fine.
to the freight depot in reverse.
Yeah, we just made
Interesting.
the-
So we'll have to build some crazy setup here at the smelter. I haven't really thought of how to do it. This turn gets a little spicy there towards the end, but it's still like 55 degrees or something, or 55 meters.
And then it's 37 meters through here in the
Oh,
turnaround
good.
loop. So, it's industrial trackage. It doesn't need to matter. It's fine.
You know, it's funny, but prior to the spline update, I laid track way tighter than this and never really thought of it. Oh,
But now-
oh my god,
Yeah,
that
that was a kink. That's the kink
that's
right there.
that's an aggressive one. But yeah, I used to lay track like way tighter than this and never really thought about it. And now that oh, you set this up, that's so cool.
A little bumper and everything. I thought that'd
Yeah,
be fun
you
to
do
put
it.
in.
That's awesome with the bumper. That's perfect.
Yeah,
We don't
I
have to
figure
fix
we'll
that,
do
we just have to-
the little victory lap here and then back out.
Yeah, we need to figure out a way to turn around the engines in this. I mean, we could always do just put a round table in part of the track. And
Yeah.
I don't know how common would they drive through like that and then just flip the engine around, or I guess
That was
you wouldn't.
really common. Turntables and Ys were more common than balloon loops. So, yeah, it's actually pretty. The way we have most of the levels set up right now is a little unprototypical so far because, yeah, I mean, it was really a game of of a Y or a turntable. So.
Right, so we'd make like a switch off line and then put a turntable, flip the engine around, bring it around the front.
Yeah, could be a good excuse for us to try out the new big turntable that's in the game.
True.
Right.
Have the smelter. If you want to go back from the smelter, you have to turn around. I guess I could fire up Betsy too, regulator reverser. Here
May
we
as
go.
well. We may need both of them to pull all 4 of these up to 2%.
I'll keep Betsy a low reg of like 25 because I don't have a lot of boiler pressure.
No, that's fine. Gotta fill it full of wood. I'm riding in the way car anyway.
Oh,
Let-
true. Yeah, I'm gonna get in the way car.
I let the stove go cold though, and we've got the door open, so it's a little drafty in here. So I'm gonna see about fixing that a little bit. There we
Close
go.
the door. Oh, nice. I wish you could get up on the benches. You can't. Sucks that you can't see.
Yeah,
you
John
can't just-
Railroadson is too tall for his own good. We actually kind of clip through the ceiling.
Right,
sometimes.
you can't like crouch and get up on the bench and then look out the windows.
Yeah, that'd be nice. The other caboose is really nice for that. So
Yeah,
you
with
actually
the
go, like, sit
cupola
in the
too
seat
and
and
stuff.
everything.
Where'd you go? What are you on? Are you in the roof?
I hopped back up to the engine. I'm on the number 1. Teehee. This is a really pretty line.
Your flap is open, sir.
My flap is open. Oh, my fire door. That's
No,
fine. I'm just
your,
being cooked.
Your water flap.
Oh, my water hatch. It's fine. Cinders in the water helps with boiling or something maybe.
Actually, what would happen if ash and dust gets in the water? It must just
There's filters at the strainer.
Oh, there
and
are?
filters at the takeoff of the tender. It's not really not the biggest thing. And with the way that it works, I mean
scrub a boiler every so often, like a build up and stuff.
Oh yeah, every 31 service days you have to take the engines out of service and clean the boiler out. Boilers have washout plugs in them, and lots of washout plugs, maybe 2 or 3 inches in diameter, just depending on the engine. And you pull all the plugs out, and you run basically a fire hose and some rods, basically, and you try and grab out as much of the boiler scale that builds up, because all the solids in the water and the hardness of the water, doesn't boil, right? So that boils off and becomes solid stuff that sticks to the inside of the barrel. So you use treatment that breaks it up and scavenges the oxygen out to prevent rust. And then when you do a boiler wash every 31 service days, you take care of all that stuff, and then try and get as much of it out as you can, and yet you'd be surprised at how much stuff comes out of those things. They really want that wash when you get to those the end of those service days.
Yeah, I mean, I got hard water in my house, and I already know how bad that is, let alone when you're boiling water, you know, all the sediment and stuff. Like, water's never perfect, right? So
Right.
it's like
Yeah.
all the sediment things that would just come out of the water. And
The railroad actually
boiler.
had some rules about certain tanks. Like they knew that on the Cumbres and Toltec, the part of that Denver and Rio Grande that still exists. For the longest time, there was orders to not take water at Lava and Cresco because the water was bad. The water was worse. So if you had to stop there for water, you know, you goofed up. You could have made it to the next tank usually. So you had to explain why did you take water there because you're, you know, hurting the engine basically. So it's definitely a real problem that the railroads really ran into. I really like this alignment. Even with all the bridges as it is, it's pretty. It's really pretty.
Yeah, it's just really chill. It's a really chill railroad. You know, crap is some chill railroads. The Central Rio Pacific was known for their chill railroads.
Chill railroad, and you know, because they spent all their time polishing turds, you know.
Yeah, man, they were in the turd polishing business, and everyone knows like turds must be transported on very smooth railroads, right?
That's
so it's
how
like
that works. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't have bumpy railroads for the turds. So.
Precisely.
This shouldn't be a bridge, though. This should be fill for a little bit further than a bridge, but I can always we'll probably fix this later because like what we were saying, you need like a bypass lane here so that
we'll probably want a passing track in here. You know, I saw some comments people like you should double track everything, and it's like, well, if we had some centralized traffic control and easy ways to deal with crossovers and stuff, maybe. But I mean, you really never had double track on the narrow gauge. Like dual track main was not a thing. Because that is the antithesis of narrow gauge, right? Like, the whole point is to make it small and narrow so that it fits places. So why would you then have two of them? You know?
Yeah.
So they would have, you know, long passing sidings here and there at stationed locations. So that it was like, okay, this is a meet point on the railroad. So there's some stations that still exist in timetables for like the Durango and Silverton or the Cumbres and Toltec that are parts of the old.
Okay.
I guess we're going this way. I don't know. Should we be going somewhere else?
No, this is the freight depot. I wasn't sure if this switch was going to take us this way or not, but yeah, no, this
I guess
perfect.
it is. That's fine.
You can't I can't get back into the way car. Look, I can't jump because the thing blocks
weird.
me.
It's funny.
Then I can't jump.
It's too bad. There's station locations on the C&T and then the Durango and Silverton that are not like stations. There was no station. Like Lobato is not a station, but it is a place where there's a passing track, so it's called out on the timetable as a stationed location. Or you know, there's other places like that. So Toltec is just a super long siding where they used to have 70-car oil trains pass each other. You know, crazy stuff on the narrow gauge, big engines.
That's insane.
So, but yeah, the rest of it single track.
How long
so
would that siding be? Like miles? Like you'd have a miles long siding?
Yeah, mile long is not unheard of. You got to think. I mean, narrow gauge cars are short; they're 30 or 40 feet. But when you get 70 of them, I mean, it's a pretty long train. It adds up.
All right, well, mission success.
Mission success. We built the
I
alignment.
I would get into Betsy, but I can't. So
that's fine. She'll just tow us off the end of the rail, I guess, at some point.
Well, no, it's gonna keep going around the. Oh, we're gonna collide if we keep.
Oh, it's fine. We'll just hit ourselves.
You might need to. You might need to. I can't. I literally can't get around. Oh, there we go. I made it into Betsy. Let's go.
You just like lagged around everywhere on my end.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you made it in.
Off and then did the old warp trick. You know.
It's a good move.
Yeah. But yeah, pulling back into the freight depot. Obviously, we should deliver some cordwood. Maybe fix up the smelter a little bit. Get that cleaned up.
You know,
but,
fix the heist mess.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say anything. There's only one really spicy corner there. The rest of it's pretty good.
The rest of it's like kind of serviceable, so yeah.
Yeah,
that's fine.
But yeah, let us know what you guys
like
think of the cop. Oh god, we need a break.
Brakes.
I'm on full break. But yeah, let us know what you guys think in the comments down below. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let us know what you think of Railroads Online, and you know, obviously give us your thoughts and ideas. Except we are not going to double track everything. We're gonna kiboshing that idea right now. It's not gonna happen.
Not happening. Sorry. Love the idea, but no.
No, we're gonna have timetables. People are gonna wait. You're gonna wait.
You're gonna wait
for the next train to clear.
Wait for the trains.
Yeah, that's the point.
Yep.
All right, we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.